So I'm here with Greg Campbell. He just came out with a new book called Pot Inc. and it's sort of one part history in Colorado in terms of medical marijuana and the other part memoir. You actually started growing a few plants of your own.
That's right. I decided, one of the things I like about the journalism that I do is that I get really in depth with my subjects. I prefer to go see things for myself, to experience things for myself, and in the case of medical marijuana, what that meant was that I was going to enroll in the state's medical marijuana registry, and I was going to grow marijuana myself in my house so that I could understand the law literally from the point of view of somebody who was required to abide by its individual dictates.
Yeah, and of course one of the interesting road bumps you went over was explaining what you were doing to your teenage son.
Exactly. One of the things that we faced here, not just as a state in Colorado of people who have allowed for the medical use of marijuana, but I think people who are debating this around the country, is what do we tell our children? Because what we've been doing throughout the years, what was taught to me and what I taught to my son before I went through this entire experiment with medical marijuana was that marijuana is bad. It's not something that you should ever touch. It could lead you to using harder drugs. There's no medical benefit to it, and it's a highly addictive and very, very dangerous substance. And in fact, that's what the government tells us today, to this very day, that it is. And here I was growing marijuana in my house with my 13-year-old son living with us. And maybe it was a bit more of an immediate need to explain myself than many other people who are living in Colorado had to experience. But there was another reason why I kind of wanted to go through this, because I wanted to find out for myself what the truth was about marijuana, and as I was learning of these medical benefits that the government continues to deny exist, I wanted my son to know that maybe what we're being told and what I inexplicably continued to tell and passed along, there's more to the story, that there's more independent thinking that needs to be done, and that I was going through this experiment in order to learn myself about what exactly the truth is.
So what was that conversation like when you sat your son down? I mean, how do you approach something like that?
Yeah. Well, father-son conversations take place out in the backyard, in our Adirondack chairs. And in fact, it was the same location where just a few years before I had told him, stay away from marijuana, don't drink any alcohol before you're 21, please don't ever smoke a cigarette in your whole life.
The typical drug talk.
The typical drug talk that I had. And so this was sort of like drug talk, 2.0, where we sat down and I basically told him that what I had initially said, I'd kind of blindly and maybe a bit clumsily thrown marijuana into the category of irreconcilable drugs, which is where the government has kept it for the last nearly 75 years. And that there was reason to believe that that wasn't exactly accurate, that there were possibly some benefits to marijuana that are continuing to be explored and that I wanted to learn about as a journalist. And so we were going to be basically fully immersing myself, and I guess as a family, fully immersing ourselves in this investigation into finding out exactly what it was. And my son was very intrigued actually by the fact that I was reversing course. I certainly didn't reverse course by telling him that it was okay to use. That was obviously still completely off limits. Same way as I discussed alcohol and tobacco, as a matter of fact, because those are legal substances, which in just a few years he'll be able to make his own decisions about whether he uses those things. And so I was very clear about the fact that marijuana was not for anyone's use in the house. It was not for his use in particular. But that as a journalist and a writer, I felt it was very important to experience this particular substance up close so that I could understand it as well. People who've been in the marijuana debate for a long time will tell you that this is something that you have to kind of take the long view for. There have been defeats, there have been successes, and there's a lot of push and pull in terms of the changing acceptance. And I think that every poll that I'm seeing that shows attitudes towards marijuana, I think incrementally you're seeing more and more acceptance, certainly of medical marijuana, and I think you're beginning to see an increasing acceptance of legalizing marijuana. And I think that's a result of these laws that have been passed in now 16 states in the country, in which the debate has been putting this issue on the front page again and again. And I think you're beginning to see a change in attitude towards the way that we treat this substance. And I think that there are more and more people, whether they smoke marijuana or not, are beginning to see that it might not make sense to prosecute it and have such a hardcore attitude towards it from a law enforcement perspective. And it's costing a lot of money from a state and federal point of view, but it's also taking a huge personal and financial toll on people who have been using it, frankly, since marijuana was introduced in this country.
Well, I think you do a great job in the book weaving Colorado's own history with medical marijuana and your own experience. So congratulations on the book, and wish you the best.
Thank you very much.